started, I just want to, if y'all see that I'm nervous, because all the exhibitions I did at the Met cannot prepare me for the amount of stress and nerves that I feel right now. So if you see that I'm like nervous, can you send me love by doing this? This is, thank you. I'll try to see the little hands. So I wanted to start off by saying that I was born in a borderland. I was born in San Diego, California, stuck between Mexico and the U.S., not really knowing how I identified. I was born to proud, hardworking, resilient parents, very, very loud parents. My mother immigrated to the United States when she was 14 years old, and my father, who would soon leave the picture, did too when he was 13. And they worked long hours. They worked many, many long hours that I recall that the people who raised me were really my maternal grandparents. And because of this distance and work, they were influenced by the mythical idea of the American dream. So they instilled in us the idea of assimilation and education, but mostly assimilation. You are to speak English at home, and you are to, to do well in school, but we didn't really know how to because my parents didn't speak English. So it was like, how could you help me if you can't really understand the work that I'm doing? The concept of identity has always been central to who I am and the work that I've done. Identifying as a US citizen was a privilege that I didn't really understand until I was 12 years old. I remember waking up at 5 in the morning to loud bangs at our front door, and what do you do when someone's knocking at the door? You open the door. But I opened the door to find ICE, so immigration, I'm forgetting the word, customs and enforcement officers. They barged in, they arrested my mother, and they deported her. And I still went to school. It's crazy that I still went to school, and I wondered, when will I see my mom? Like, what's gonna happen? But luckily, I had family who took care of us. Being the eldest, or the second eldest of four, at that time it was four, was difficult. I didn't really know my positionality, like, do I raise my siblings? Do I focus in school? But it was the experiences that I had growing up in the, what they coined the probation capital of San Diego, that really helped me identify. Today, I'm proud to say that I'm a product of the inner city. I'm a low-income, first-generation woman of color. Thank you. City Heights raised me to be street smart, because that's important, and it raised me to be resilient, while also instilling a sense of pride, a pride of coming from struggle, from loss, from trauma, but also being able, to stand here in front of y'all today. So here I am. That was me in middle school during our school spirit week. I was confident, curious, goal-oriented. And as a result of the generational and intercultural differences between my family, my siblings, and I, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't have the resources and the support at home to challenge and to foster academic growth. So what did I do? I found a way to get the resources that I needed. So I went to school, and I basically lived in school. I was that student. I was the hopeless hand raiser. I was the student that would show up an hour before school, and I'd stay 3-4 hours after, because I knew how important teacher-student relationships were, and I knew that that was the only way that I was going to be the student that I knew I had the potential to be. My educators, as annoyed as they probably were with me, knew and accepted me for being curious and for wanting to grow. I was a go-getter. I was a teacher's pet. I was very active in my school community, and ultimately, I knew that I couldn't stay in City Heights. But it wasn't because I didn't like City Heights. It's so rich in culture. It's one of the most diverse neighborhoods in San Diego. But I knew that if I stayed, I'd be trapped in a cycle of generational poverty. And for me, after growing up, struggling, we'd go days, sometimes weeks, without heat and electricity, I knew that I knew that I had to get out. I couldn't live here. My parents didn't graduate high school. My older brother didn't graduate high school. And a lot of it had to do with the environment that we were in, a lot of gang activity. There was drugs. It was just not somewhere that I felt I could really identify with. And so, at a young age, I knew that I needed education to survive, and I needed education to move on. So I'm just gonna stop because of creaking. So this is where my narrative changes. Not knowing, after I graduated from middle school or promoted, I didn't know where I was gonna go to school. And I did not want to go to my neighborhood school. And so one of my friend's mom actually said, hey, I know of this great school that has an amazing internship program. Maybe you could look at it. So it was 2 weeks before school started. My mom didn't really have a say in my education, so I remember looking up the San Diego Met. And I didn't know that there was an application process. I didn't know that there were interviews. I didn't know that I had to visit the school and meet the principal. So I emailed the principal anyway. And I was like, hey, do you have a spot in your school? So keep in mind I was 14, and I emailed her, said, hey, I really need to go to school, and I really want to go to your school, even though I didn't know anything about it. And she was really impressed with my initiative, and I secured a spot in the San Diego Met. Thank you. My experience at the Met, and this is important, has granted me the opportunity to be my authentic self. I learned the importance of agency and of having my own voice. And I found that voice through independent projects, internships, college courses. And I just learned yesterday that the San Diego Met is really unique in that we were placed at a college campus. I thought that was universal for all Met schools. So I'm really privileged in that sense as well. The San Diego Met let me be the author of my own narrative. And it allowed me the freedom to make the decisions that I wanted based on the kind of education that I wanted and the goals that I had in my life. So here's a picture of my advisory. This is a Baker advisory. I believe this was in 2011. My advisory, although we're all in very different places right now, they challenged me, they pushed me. This was my home, my community. I was in Kathy Baker's advisory, if anyone knows her. And they really let me be who I wanted to be. And everyone was whoever they wanted to be. And no one questioned our identities. I remember all my independent projects were about Lady Gaga or something that I really liked, San Diego Pride. It was just things that I was really interested in. And that's something that as an educator now, I stress is individualized, project-based learning. And I can honestly say that I found my purpose and passion and strong sense of identity through the San Diego Met's internship program. Being the go-getter that I described I was earlier, I sought after internships that did not already exist. And our campus was one that had a huge inventory of internships. But I said, I want to go somewhere that can foster someone who I want to be in the future. And so the first internship that I went to this is just a picture of everything that I stand for on the left, but it was through the San Diego LGBT Pride. And when I first interned there, I was curious. I wasn't just curious about the organization and the work that they do in the community, but I was curious about my own identity. At San Diego Pride, I was an event organizer. I was a facilitator, a recruiter, and community member. Through my work at Pride, I was able to recruit youth. So I guess the project that I did for Pride was that we created because it was a teamwork, it wasn't just me. By recruiting teens, we created a youth zone at their annual Pride Parade that brought in over 500 youth. And I did that for 3 years. And at the end of my experience at Pride, I came out to my family, and I came out to my advisory, and I was welcomed with open arms. And this is, thank you. I'm gonna grab some water. And this is important, the fact that I'm saying I came out to my advisory, because I think it's critical that we have these conversations. And as I reflect me being here today in Orlando with the event that happened a month and a half ago, it's critical that we create spaces, right, for youth to be who they are and to foster conversations, because we need to talk about these issues, but we need to talk about how we can coexist. And so being here is just, you know, I still haven't processed what happened, because it's tragic. And just a reminder that we still need to work for equality, and also how can we be better allies. So after Pride, on the picture on the right, I went to Monroe Clark Middle School. I went back to City Heights, because I was like, all right, I'm a senior in high school. What do I want to do? I've learned all of these experiences and hands-on experience, but what do I really want to do? And I thought everything that has gotten me to the point that I was, you know, at that time was education. So I decided, let me go back and let me see if teaching is for me. So for my entire senior year, I interned at Clark, and it was through this experience that I realized my passion for education. At Clark, I taught social studies with my 6th grade teacher, so I went back and worked with everyone that supported me. I was an advisor for one of the clubs, but I was also a mentor for 3 8th grade girls. And I remember I was going through the motions of applying for college and scholarships and talking about what I wanted to do, and we would have conversations about, you know, what they wanted to do, and they were like, oh, we're too young, but they were really impacted by what I had to say. And I'm proud to say that after 4 years, I can tell y'all that they're all going to college, and they all came from City Heights, and I'm really proud of them. They put in a lot of work. And so speaking of hard work, I was nearing the end of my time at the Met, and I, coming from a really low-income family, I didn't know how I was going to pay for college. And I applied to small scholarships, but I didn't get them. And then the holy grail of all scholarships presented itself to me, the Gates Millennium Scholarship, right? And I was not confident, even though I did a lot. I did a lot of work because of the Met, right? I did a lot of work, but also because of the passion that I had. I didn't believe that I could get it. And there was another student who won the Gates Millennium Scholarship through the San Diego Met about 2 years prior. And I remember sitting there and saying, like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to be like him. And I believe his name was Bashir. I forgot his last name. But he got that too. And so if it wasn't for Kathy Baker on the right, I don't think I would be a Gates Scholar. She pushed me and motivated me. And to this day, I just called her yesterday. Like, we are so close. She's like my mom. And she nominated me. And I know she wrote probably 8-10 pages about me, because she was the person that knew me best. So whatever she said did the trick, because I can stand here, $0 in loans, fully paid education. And so at the end of May, I found out I was a Gates Scholar. That was from the San Diego Union Tribune. I was in the newspaper. And I also found out that I got accepted into my #1 school. I went to UC Berkeley. I don't know if any Bears in the house, but UC Berkeley, oh gosh. It's like they make it seem, you know, it's so liberal, but it also it challenged me, it pushed me. I majored in gender and women's studies, and I minored in education. And it was through the education courses that I took that really taught me about who I wanted to be as an educator. I'm all about challenging and questioning the histories that we're taught, the narratives that we're taught. Why is it so homogenous? Like, why do we not foster identity? Why are we not talking about bell hooks? Why aren't we incorporating, you know, ethnic studies, African American studies, Black studies, feminist studies into the curriculum that we teach kids K through 12, right? Like, that is important. And so I had a particular class where I read Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and that changed my life. Paulo Freire, oh my gosh. I'm here because of him, you know. We need to talk about the relationships that we have as teachers, as students. What does that mean in the classroom? But I'm also here because of Gloria Anzaldúa, if anyone has ever read Borderlands. Because like me, it's all about intersectionality, right? And everyone here, everyone's so intersectional, but it's about how those identities shapes our lives and shapes the way that we understand our positionality in this world. So, where am I at today, you may ask? I graduated in May. I just graduated college. It was tough, let me tell you. It was really tough. But it's not as tough as where I am right now. I don't know if any of y'all heard of Urban Teachers, but it's a 4-year residency program. They just got a partnership with Johns Hopkins, so I am training to be a teacher as we speak, while also earning my master's in education. And thank you. And it happened so fast, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like, I started last month, right? I haven't had a break since March. I'm burning out. I've been crying like every single day for the last 2 weeks. Being a teacher is so hard. It is so hard. I don't know how y'all do it. I'm losing my mind lesson planning. I'm losing my mind like just trying to try to like make dry books become really relevant to student lives. And it is so, like, if I ever doubted the work that teachers do, like, I'm really sorry, because now I know. Now I know. So early on, right, I had a choice. I could have been a lawyer or a doctor. My parents really wanted me to do that. I could have went to my neighborhood high school. I could have decided to stay in the closet, and I could have decided to not go to college. But agency and identity was and continues to be incredibly important to me. And as I continue to understand my positionality and the impact I have on my community, students, friends, and colleagues, I'm always reminded of the educational spaces that made it possible. You see, regardless of whether or not my teachers believed in the same issues that I did, they fostered an environment where I felt safe. Safe is a key word, safe, y'all. And they went the extra mile to accommodate my styles of learning. I'm a speaker, I love to speak, so any chance I got, I'd present my books, through an oral presentation. So it's about accommodating, different differentiated styles of learning. So for all the educators in the room, think about the ways in which y'all can be inclusive and make your classrooms more safe. So one good way to start is by being conscious of the times y'all say you guys. You guys is it's the biggest pet peeve I have being in a classroom, because it contributes to the notion that the default human is male. My gender women's studies talking here. But it also, it creates this notion that women are different. And male-centric languages can cause discomfort, especially for people who do not identify as male. Do I look like a guy to y'all? So that's one thing maybe y'all should like really consider and just be critical of. And to the students, to all the students in here, my biggest advice, practice self-care. Practice self-care early on. That's really important. And remember that you're not a statistic. Grades do not determine your worth. Grades do not determine your worth. Do not let yourself, or do not let society fit you in boxes for their comfort, right? Like, let's challenge society. Let's challenge all these ideas that they put us in, that they instill in us. But most importantly, and this has been key to my identity, is be unapologetically proud of who you are, where you come from, your struggles, mistakes, successes, and most importantly, your dreams. Be proud to dream big, and dream big, because the little inner city girl, right, when I was 10, I didn't think I'd be here right now. I didn't think I'd be going straight to my master's program. I didn't think that I'd be the first to graduate high school in my family. And I'm doing it all because of educators like all of you here. So thank you.